Welcome back. So let's pick up where we are at the end of the last video and we'll prepare the textures for the head. So the head is going to be slightly different, I think, than the other assets because it's going to be treated because it doesn't have all of the same qualities. There's not going to be any metalness for the head. So we're going to go in here, add layer, recent, Unity material. Now I'm going to take that diffuse color and Unity albedo. And set that to Unity albedo. Now we're going to take the normal map. Set that to Unity normal. And we want to click yes on that. We're going to jump into Photoshop and fix the normal map. There it is. Create the exposure. 0.4545. Flatten image. Control S. Jump back into Modo. Alright, there we go. So for that we have the color, the normal, and I'm going to delete these two. So I think what I want to create now is a smoothness map. And just close all of these guys. Yeah, fix him up. Solidify. Flatten. Now if we open up the roughness here, we want to invert that. So we want the eyes to be very shiny. And I kind of want to vary this, I think, a little bit. So I'm going to solidify that there. I'm going to grab maybe one of these channels in here. Which one seems to have the most details? Maybe the blue. Control All, Control Copy. Layer on here. Invert that. It's going to get very sort of dull. We'll increase this a lot. So the lighter the color, the glossier it's going to seem. So let's Control S. We're going to go to PNG. Like before, we're going to call this smoothness. Save. Alright, we're going to jump back into Moto here. Not making any edits there, so we're going to add an image map now. We're going to load in that smoothness that we just created. Change that to Unity smoothness. So we definitely got the gloss on the eyes. Maybe the rest of the head is still a little bit too dull. So we'll increase that even more. Control S, save. PNG. Smoothness, overwrite. Okay. Back into Moto. he's looking a little too shiny now. Maybe we can adjust that in this Unity material. You have this Fresnel reflection, and maybe pull that back a little bit on the skin. I think that looks pretty good. If we want to bring out a little bit some of those details, we could also bring in the ambient occlusion here. But I'm not sure I'm going to be crazy about the look of ambient occlusion on his head. Let's just try it out and see what it looks like. So open up the ambient occlusion there. Get my action. Control S to save. We're going to add an image in here. Load image. Load in that ambient occlusion. I'll set that to Unity. Ambient occlusion. Oh, that's very subtle. That actually looks pretty nice. It brings out those details a little bit more. Okay, so we've gone through, we've done the armor and the flight suit and now the head. So now the dome is made out of glass and it's transparent. We're going to have to do some special shading tricks inside of Unity in order to get that to show up. So I'm not going to add a Unity shader to the dome. But what I am going to do is I'm going to double select that, hit Shift H, and then I'm just going to go in here and select this bottom loop. L to select that whole bottom, delete, select the inside and delete that because Unity's not going to like having the double surface. Select all of those and then Shift D. We're going to subdivide this. Get rid of a couple of these loops down here. Yeah, just that one, double click, backspace, and then U to unhide. I think that's going to work better. Alright, so now we have the gloves, the tool belt, the wrist controls, the boots, the knee pads, and the breathing tube. It's exactly the same process that I showed you in the armor and the flight suit. So it's just going through and processing all of those images and then making adjustments to those layers. So you're going to be grabbing out the metallic layer from the specular, and you can do that with a series of curves or selections in order to create those. And then saving those images out and then applying the Unity material and then specifying the Unity effect. So I'm going to save here and I'll let you continue on and complete that process. Now that we've completed what I like to call the look dev portion, we'll need to do one final optimization pass. We need to combine these textures into single images and specify their effect with a feature called swizzling. Now the reason I like to separate these two tasks is because it's very easy to quickly see the changes in Moto when you save out your images from Photoshop. And for me, by combining the images up front, you might save a step here, but you lose a lot of flexibility to work with layers in Photoshop and easily make modifications to your image. Now swizzling specifically is the combination of multiple textures into a single image, and then they're assigned by their channel as to the effect they're applied to. By doing this, the textures will show up properly in Unity once exported. So before we go forward on this asset again, I'm going to save this out into a final asset. So save as. We're going to do this one, the prep for Unity final. Save that guy. I'm just going to replace the test scene that I had on there. So now I'm going to show you how we're going to do this. Hopefully this isn't going to take very long. So we have the normal as an RGB image and the diffuse color, which is RGB. But then we have the metallic, roughness, and the ambient occlusion, and we're going to basically merge those into a single image in Photoshop, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So if I open up Photoshop here, I got my metallic, my ambient occlusion, and my roughness, or my smoothness. And then what I want to do is I'm going to take the metallic, which is right now as a grayscale image, and we're going to go to Image, Mode, and convert that to an RGB image. Now we're going to take the ambient occlusion and select all, Control Copy, and we're going to get back over here, and then the ambient occlusion is going to go into the green channel. So we just select just this channel in the channels viewport, or excuse me, in the channels list, and hit Control V. And then we're going to grab the smoothness here, Control A, Control C, and then we're going to go back here, and then we need to add an alpha channel. So in the alpha channel here now, we're going to hit Control V. So this makes for a pretty silly looking image, but it's going to have all the information that we want. Now the next thing that you need to make sure that you're doing is, unfortunately, Photoshop does not support alpha channels properly when saved out of Photoshop. So what you're going to need to do is download and install this tool called Super PNG. It's a freeware plugin for Photoshop that you can just download here from Fjord Software. So I'll put this up on the screen, the URL there. And you just download and install that into Photoshop. Now, when we're saving this image out, you're going to want to select that Super PNG format. So we're going to go here, File, and then Save As. And then just to point out, in the video tin, I actually moved those textures into a Process Textures folder within the Unity tin, so that if you're following along, you can still get back to those baked textures as they were in their raw format. So anyways, I'm in this folder, and I'm going to call this one Armor, and I'm just going to call it Multi, so that I can separate that, save that as Super PNG, save, and then we want to make sure that the alpha is saved as an alpha. I'm just going to disable that, smaller file, click OK. Alright, so that is saved, and we switch back over into Modo. We didn't change anything, so I'm just going to say no on that. So we need to disable the ambient occlusion, the roughness, and the metallic. Now I'm going to add in a new image layer here. So just load image under image map, and then we want to make sure we're in source files, video tin, processed textures. So here's that weird looking Armor Multi. So click open on that. It's going to add it into my shader tree. So the first one we're going to have here is going to be the Unity Smoothness. So the smoothness is in the alpha channel. So if we pull this up a little bit, we can click on this swizzling, and then now we can select the alpha channel, and then now it's only using that alpha channel. So then now we can just right click on here and duplicate. It's the same image, so it only counts as one image in our scene. And then this one is going to be the metallic. So Unity metallic. I apologize that that's off the screen there. And that is in the red channel. So we just select red. And then duplicate one more time, and this is going to be the occlusion, which is in the green channel. So Unity, Ambient Occlusion, and then the channel is green. And that there gives us the same look that we were getting with those other three layers, but now it's in one image. So I can just select these three here and delete those out of my shader tree. And I'm going to save my scene file. So I'll need to go through and do that for each one of these materials. So I'll do this one more time here. So we got the metallic, smoothness, and ambient occlusion. So I'll turn those off on the flight suit. We'll jump into Photoshop and close these guys. Control open, and we want the flight suit. So we got the metallic, the smoothness, and the ambient occlusion. So select all of the metallic, copy, and then we'll get the ambient occlusion one here, image, mode, convert that to RGB, and then the metallic layer is going to go in the red channel. And then we need to create an alpha channel. Control all copy. Paste this into that alpha channel. All right. So again, file, save as, super PNG, and we're going to call this one multi as well. So if you're adept at the Photoshop Actions tab here, should be easy enough to just be able to select these three guys in a row, create yourself an action, and then you can just open up those three images again, apply that action to it, and then it'll just make really quick work of just opening and saving these files. All right, let's jump back into Moto. No. Open. Load image. So here's the suit multi. So we get the smoothness in the alpha. Doesn't really matter what order you do these in. So we can do the smoothness. And make sure we got swizzling. So smoothness is in the alpha. And then duplicate, and then we have ambient occlusion is in the green. And then duplicate. And the metallic is in the red. All right. We can go through and delete those layers. Control S to save. So I'm just going to pause here now that you know the process. And I'm just going to go through and save the rest of these images out here and then save out my final file. And then we will be ready for the final export into the Unity game engine. So now the texture setup is fully complete. I've swizzled all of the textures in, and you can see now that it looks identical to the way it was looking before, but we've gone in and we've set up the multi-images to have all of the various aspects, and then use the swizzling feature there to specify the channel. So now the only thing that's really left here is these are the names that are going to get inherited into the Unity scene file when we export. So I'm going to change these names really quick, where the bake is going to get replaced with the word alien. Yes. I'm just going to pause here for a second. All right, that is all completed. So we will save our file one final time. Now in the game's layout here, I'm going to be in the export toolbox. Now in order to export this guy, we're just going to go to the game preset and I'm going to choose Unity. And then once I've chosen that, I'm going to select my output directory here. I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call this one Unity Export. Select this folder here. And that should be all that we need to do. There's no animation on this character just yet. So we're not going to worry about that today. So now, the last thing we need to do is press the export button. And that's it. He's been exported there. So we can look in that folder. So if we look in the Unity export, we can see that an FBX file has been created and then this final XML file has been created. And this is what we're going to need in order to get those assets into Unity. So let's jump into Unity and see what we need to do there now. So this is Unity 5.3.5, and I'm just going to create a new project. And it's going to be a 3D project, and I'm just going to click Create the Project. Let me resize this here so you can actually see what's going on. All right. Now in order to import the Moto asset properly, you're going to need to grab a tool off of the internet. Now I will put this URL up here. But this is the Moto material importer that's available at the Unity Asset Store. So if you open up this URL, you'll get this page, and then we just click on this little Open in Unity, get this little pop-up here with my web browser. And what this does is it just shows us the asset store directly in Unity, and we can click Import, and I just want to click on Import there. Super easy to do. And then we'll go back to our scene here. And then this creates this editor folder, and I like this editor folder be here at the top level on the assets. So now that we've created that editor folder inside of here, the next thing to do is go into our assets folder, right click, and we're going to say import new asset. We need to locate the export that we just created. So we're going to go in here, take that FBX file, and then we also need to import new asset and import that XML file that was created into that folder. So what that does is that's creating all of the texture maps. Alright, so now all that's left to do is to add our asset into the viewport here. I actually just make that at 0. So you can see there is our asset. Like I said, there's going to have to do something special in Unity because it doesn't have good transparency support. But we can do something here that'll make this look more like what we were looking at in Moto, just so we can see how close these actually are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import a new asset, and I'm going to go up here to the source files, imported images, and I'm going to take that HDR image that we were using to light our scene in Modo, import that, and I want to set the texture type to that as a cube map. And then we're going to hit apply on there, and it'll take a second for that to process that into a cube map for us. Alright, now I'm also going to go in here and create a material, and I can call this environment. And in here we're going to go into the shader, and we're going to hit skybox, and we're going to call it a cube map. Now we're going to take and drag this HDR image onto that cube map. Now all that's left is to just drag this onto the viewport here. So we can see now it looks identical, well, basically identical to how it looked like in Moto. So the one last thing that we want to deal with here is this transparency. So we're going to go into the materials here in this alien dome that I didn't have anything mapped to. I'm going to select the standard specular setup here. We're going to set this to transparent. Make that a little more specular. Reduce the albedo. So I found that you have to kind of toggle this shader here on the top in order to get that to actually show through as transparent. But then it does really nice shading right there in the viewport. So there you have it. We successfully made it to the end of this training. Hopefully this has helped demystify and explain the process for creating high-quality game assets. While it is a fairly lengthy process, Modo provides a great end-to-end solution that streamlines the workflow without the need for additional external tools. Now keep in mind, while this tutorial focused on a character, the process would basically be the same for an environment, for a terrain, or even for a vehicle. Now, if you have any questions about this training or Modo in general, please post them to our community forum. We have a lot of helpful people there that are really willing to answer all sorts of questions. We're also going to have a dedicated section just for this tutorial. I personally want to thank you for watching, and I really look forward to seeing what you create. I'll see you on the forums. Take care. Welcome back. So now we're a stone's throw away from the finish line. All we have left now is to actually export our asset and then open that up in Unreal Engine and get our textures applied to that. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. So first we're going to open up the asset that we saved from the last video. You can open yours, or if you're just jumping in here, we're going to open up the lookdev file in the video 10 Unreal 4 folder for this one. So open that. So there is our asset. So we've got him all prepped and ready. And now, just to make sure we don't make any changes to that original file here, just as before, I'm going to save this to a new name. I think I'm just going to get this one Alien Final Export. I'm just going to save it into the exact same folder, since we aren't doing anything too intense for this video. So I think the first thing that I want to do, and I think it's going to cause some problems here, is we have that double layer there of the glass on the helmet. So we're going to go in here to the glass dome, maybe hide these other assets here. I'm going to select this loop here and delete that. Then we're going to select the interior of that, hit delete. We're going to increase the polygon count a little bit on this guy. So I'm just going to hit Shift D, and we're going to do a Catmull Clark subdivision on there. And I think we could probably get away with deleting this loop down here. So I think that will end up getting us better results once we get that over to UE4. And let's bring all of our layers back now. And we can actually select all of these various layers here in our items list. And I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to merge these together using the merge meshes command. I'm going to call this our alien space pilot, because that's what he is. And then I'm also going to go through, and these are the shader names that are going to come across into UE4. So I'm actually going to replace this bake here with alien. And I'll copy and paste that through. And we'll say yes. So I just double click on there and then highlight, copy, paste. All right, so we've got that all complete. So we are ready to export. I would say that our asset is completely prepped. So we're going to be doing this in the game's layout, same layout we've been working in all along here, and we're going to be using this export toolbox here. So the first thing we want to do is select our preset, which is all set up for us already in Unreal Engine 4. So I'm going to click Unreal Engine 4, and then I need to define an output directory where I want to put this. So I'm actually going to put this into the games folder where I've been working all along on our source files, and I'm going to create an Unreal 4 export folder. Alright, so we're going to select that folder. Now we have this ability to copy the textures into this folder that we create, and we can make sort of subfolders here. So I would probably just keep that one in the base folders, just put it in textures. But if we're doing multiple assets, we might want to keep those textures organized by making a subfolder for, alien, for spacecraft, that sort of stuff. But I think for our purposes, that's going to be just fine. So I'm going to accept the presets for this, since this is a static object. It's not going to be animated in this tutorial. And then from there on out, we just hit export. What that's going to do is that's going to create a couple files on our hard drive. So if we come here and look at the source files folder, I can look in here at the Unreal 4 export folder we just created. And it's created an alien final export FBX and then an XML file. And the XML file is what we'll be using to import to create our textures in Unreal. And then it's copied all those textures over into this folder. So I can minimize that. So now we've completed the Moto portion of the training. Now I'm going to show you how to take that exported file and get that into Unreal. So if I open up my Unreal Games Launcher here, and I am going to be working with 4.12.4, which is the most recent version as of the recording of this video. I'm going to launch that. And I'm just going to create a blank project here. Desktop console, maximum quality, and then I've just got the starter content in there. We'll give this guy a name, Alien Pilot. And let's create that project. All right, let me adjust this down so you can actually see what's going on here. All right, now, so we're in the editor. And this is the default scene whenever you create a new project. And I actually want to work in a different scene because I'm going to try and mimic as closely as possible the attributes of what Moto's doing in its own viewport. So that way we can try and get a one-to-one look between the two of them. So I'm going to go up here to File, and we're going to go to Open Level, look at the starter content, and we're going to look in the Maps folder. And in there, I'm going to open up the advanced lighting so that we can get the HDRI lighting going on with our asset. So click Open on that. And that creates a new scene here that we can look around in that has an HDR image in the background and a couple of objects. So I'm actually going to delete these objects because I think they are unnecessary for our purposes. And I'm also going to disable the reflection capture layer because I think it's unnecessary, and the post-processing volume. So the next thing I want to do is I want to replace this background with an image that we've already created, or the one that we were using in the Moto viewport. So I'm going to go up to the BP light stage layer here, and I'm going to replace this HDR cube map. So I'll do that by importing the asset. So we'll go in here to my folder. We're going to look in the source files and the imported images, which has those original images in it, and we're going to import that Cherry Hill HDR image. All right, that's all imported. And we're just going to click and drag that and put that over there. So now we are much more accurately mimicking the lighting that we were seeing in Moto. So with that, I'm actually going to save this project, and we're going to exit out of here. So we're going to File and Save. And then I'm going to close out of Unreal, because next we want to add in the plugin that's going to import the textures for Moto. So if I just imported the asset right now, it wouldn't have any textures on it. And we need that plugin in order to do that first. So let's just exit out of here really quick. I'm going to show you how to do that. We'll save all of that stuff. So now you could just go into the vault with the Moto material importer and you can install that. But with Unreal getting updated fairly regularly, the folks over at Unreal or Epic actually have to compile each one of the tools specifically. And it can cause delays in the store in getting that updated. So if you want the most recent version, I really recommend getting the GitHub repository and downloading that. So this is the URL for GitHub for the Unreal plugin here. I'm going to put that up on the screen. You can see that. And I'm going to show you how to install this into your scene file. So you can just click on this clone or download button on the main page, and this gives you an option just to download the zip. So you can download that zip file directly to your hard drive. We'll minimize this and I will show you. This is what it looks like when you download it, Unreal Plugin Master Zip. So I'm just going to go in here, double click in there, and there's a folder called Plugins. So with that selected in Windows, I'm going to right click and copy, and I'm sure there is an equivalent command on the Mac. And then I'm going to go into my Unreal Projects folder where I just saved that Alien Pilot. I'm going to double click on that, and I'm simply going to right click and paste. And that's going to copy everything that was in that plugins folder into this folder. So now I have a plugins folder that is part of this project. So it really doesn't get much easier than just doing those couple of actions. Now we can go back here to the Unreal launcher, and I'm going to double click on my Alien Pilot. And we see right off that this is our plugin right here. The Moto Material Importer is what we're going to be using to import that. So let's go back up here to File and open that level for the advanced lighting that we created. Now the first thing we're going to want to do is import our actual asset. So we do that by clicking on the Import button. And I'm going to go here to the Unreal 4 export folder where we created the FBX and XML file. And I'm going to select the Alien Final Export file and click Open. And I'm just going to accept the defaults. And then that gives me my Alien Final Export object in here. So I can click and drag that and hit F in Unreal to zoom in on that guy a little bit. And you can see it doesn't have any materials. So the way that we get the materials on here now so that it looks like what's going on in Modo, so we're going to use the Moto Material Importer. So we click on that. And then in there, we want to navigate to that same folder. Game Asset Training. So now we want to take that Alien Final Export XML file and we're going to open that. And this is going to take maybe a minute or two to actually import all of those images and process those for Unreal. And when it's done processing those, it actually opens up the window that shows you where all the various materials are. All right, so here is the pop-up. That wasn't too bad. Took about a minute and a half to get all of those images inside of there. And then we could go through and double check any of those in the editor if we so desired. But I believe we can just click off there and all of our materials now have been imported in. And of course I turned off this spherical capture before. We could disable those. Those are unnecessary. So there we go. We have a reasonable facsimile of what the asset looked like in Modo in Unreal Engine with all of the textures and everything intact. So Modo itself supports the base material that Unreal offers. An advanced user or a clever Unreal user could probably just follow a tutorial online or apply a much better transparency shader here on the helmet. But this tutorial is more about just getting the assets from Modo into Unreal rather than being an Unreal tutorial. But that is the process. We successfully made it to the end of this training. Hopefully this has helped demystify and explain the process for creating high-quality game assets. While it is a fairly lengthy process, Modo provides a great end-to-end solution that streamlines the workflow without the need for additional external tools. Now keep in mind, while this tutorial focused on a character, the process would basically be the same for an environment, for a terrain, or even for a vehicle. Now if you have any questions about this training or Modo in general, please post them to our community forum. We have a lot of helpful people there that are really willing to answer all sorts of questions. We're also going to have a dedicated section just for this tutorial. I personally want to thank you for watching, and I really look forward to seeing what you create. I'll see you on the forums. Take care.